The New Jersey eviction notice. What is an eviction notice? Eviction notice, or notice to quit, is a letter sent by the landlord to the tenant notifying them that they should either take or stop a certain action or vacate the rented premises. Eviction notice can be of two types. Conditional, when a tenant is given time to remedy the breach of the lease, or unconditional, when a landlord terminates the lease without any alternative options for a tenant. What should an eviction notice include? Information about the tenant and the landlord. The reason for sending the notice. The date by which the tenant should take or stop a certain action. The consequences of non-compliance. The date and way of notice delivery and the landlord's signature in the form of certificate of service attached to the notice. How to evict a tenant in New Jersey. Non-payment notice. There is no statutory grace period for rent payment in the state of New Jersey. This enables the landlord to send the notice to the tenant the very next day after the rent is due, unless otherwise stated in the lease. The only exception is set for senior tenants. They should have a 5-day grace period to pay rent after it is due before the landlord can move forward with the eviction process. In the state of New Jersey, in most cases, landlords are not required to send tenants who fail to pay rent a written notice before filing a complaint with the court. However, if the tenant has a habitual failure to pay rent on time, and the landlord has been accepting late payments, a 30-day notice about the intent to start an eviction process should be sent. Non-compliance notice. If the tenant violates the terms of the lease, a notice to correct the violation or quit, also called notice to cease, needs to be sent to them. If the latter fails to comply with the notice, a 30-day notice to quit should be sent. In case of a disorderly conduct, the same notice to cease should be sent to the tenant. If they fail to stop the wrong behavior, a 3-day notice to quit should be sent by the landlord. If there is property damage or illegal actions, a 3-day notice should also be sent before the eviction process starts. What if the tenant fails to comply? If the tenant fails to comply with the rules of the lease, the landlord can file a complaint with the appropriate New Jersey court. The fee is $50 statewide. After the landlord appeals to court, the tenant should get the summons and complaint by a special civil part officer prior to court hearing. However, if the tenant pays rent owed within 3 business days after the judgment is issued in favor of the landlord, the eviction won't take place. If the tenant wants to contest the eviction, they should appear for the hearing. Or otherwise, the court will rule in favor of the landlord by default. If the landlord wins the case, a warrant for removal will be issued. According to this order, the tenant will have 3 business days after the issue of warrant to move out. But they can also request an order for orderly removal, which would automatically give them 7 days to move out if granted by the judicial officer. Or the tenant can be given a stay of execution for up to 6 months in case moving out sooner would create a hardship for them.